Okay, so it looks like we have some really shitty connection. I'm gonna do a speed test real quick. Every now and then my computer. Alright, speed test looks good. OBS looks okay. Our guest is restarting Skype. Twitch, I don't think I need to have up. I'm not sure. Yeah, this is really bad, so let's go ahead and kill some stuff here. Let's kill the detailed analytics. Alright, get rid of the speed test. Let's exit Twitch. Decline that for a minute. OB. See how this looks on YouTube. Stream health good. Cool. Let's give him a call. Yes, I can. How's it going, Mr. Foster? Great. Are you available for video by chance? Alright, while you do that, I'm going to set up my settings here too. There we go. Hey, I want to say thank you so much for jumping on a late call at last minute notice like that. It really helped me out quite a bit.
Hey, no problem, man. I love what you're doing. I think it's a cool concept. So happy to contribute.
Thank you. This is year 2 of it, so it's been fun.
Nice.
So since this is the first time both of us are meeting each other, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of let us know what you're about and what it is you do.
Yeah, so I go by the moniker Vernon Maxwell. I do a daily podcast called Famous Quotes from Famous People. Basically, it's a little bit of inspiration, a little motivation. I tell everyone we're jumping on the inspiration train. We're heading down to Motivation Town. In 5 minutes or less, 7 days a week, I give you what you need to get for you to get to where you got to go.
I like it. So how long you been doing this?
January 5th will be 1 year.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
It's a lot of quotes.
It's a lot of quotes, man, but a lot of it's curated, so it's a cool, I'm not having to generate new ideas every day, right? I'm using what's out there already, because there's already a lot of content out there, right? There's already a lot of people doing great stuff, so I'm kind of a curator in that regard.
Okay. So what got you started on this path? Because I like it, but it's interesting.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you asked, Michael. It's so this isn't my first podcast. This is actually probably like my third show that I've actually launched. I've always wanted to do a daily podcast, but I never could crack the code, if you will. So when I was growing up as a kid, I played sports, and in high school I had quotes on my mirror. So I would wake up, wash my face, brush my teeth, and I would get my inspiration from these quotes by guys like Mean Joe Green, right? Like old school football players. And so one day, a while back, it hit me. I was like, well, I always had this idea to do something around quotes. And because they've been an inspiration, I feel like quotes are bite-sized wisdom that people that are successful kind of hand down to you, right? So through books, through interviews, through podcasts, it's just another way for people to consume wisdom from those who came before them. And with the way like technology has evolved in communication, and we have so little time to consume now, quotes are kind of like that bite-sized format that you can consume, and it can give you a little bit of what you need, right? Maybe it's motivation. Maybe you had a hard breakup. Maybe you're going through tough times and you just need that little saying from your mentor or your virtual mentor, the person out there in the world, to inspire you, and you can get that in the form of a quote.
Yep. No, I agree. Sorry about that. I was just changing the settings on one of the phones. Had to make sure everything was set up properly. No, I like it a lot. So one thing I used to do was there's a book I used to read. I can't remember what it's called, but it was a quote book from I want to say either the 1920s or 1940s called "It Can Be Done," and it was like quotes and poems that were all supposed to be like inspirational.
Right.
And I would like read that every day, and then I would talk about what that quote or poem meant to me. Things happened. My morning routine went completely to shit, and that stopped. But on days that does happen, my day is definitely much more productive and successful, and I sleep easier at night knowing that I had a more productive day there. So I definitely understand what you mean with the quotes and the daily practices and everything.
Do you still have that book by any chance?
Yeah, so I actually have the original first edition copy. And then I bought a second version, which is the newer edition, so that way I didn't have to keep on opening and closing that one. Out of fear that I would destroy the original print.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I do still have them.
That's cool, man. I love that.
So you said this is your third show.
Yeah.
What were the other two about then?
So the first show I did back in 2013, it was called Live by the Beat. And I was going to interview all the famous DJs in the world, and and I was going to create like a digital product around that, right? Like a DJ course. I got like 3 episodes in, and then they never even saw the light of day. The next one I did was really fun. It was called Event Supremacy. That was really cool because I had been in the events space industry for about like a year and a half when I launched that podcast, and I got to interview some amazing people that were doing events all around the world. And it wasn't your traditional boring conference. These were entrepreneur masterminds. I interviewed people who had put together big sponsorship deals, like Lisa Yukman. I sat down with she was the founder, or not the founder. She was like the event coordinator of a thing called Mind Valley. They had these retreats that they were doing. It was really kind of cool. And then just interesting entrepreneurs who are putting together masterminds. These guys that do this thing called the TMBA podcast. They have this thing that they do every year in Bangkok, Thailand. So it's a big gathering of big entrepreneurs and online marketers. And I parlayed that into a podcasting services business because I realized that people wanted podcasts, but they didn't have the time to actually do it. And then I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. So
and then Anchor did it for you. So yeah, so the service is still there.
Yeah, Anchor is like the game changer, that's how we met. Great community, by the way. Shout out to Anchor.
Oh, and absolutely. There's nothing like the Anchor community that I've ever interacted with before. So I definitely agree. Now, have you always been entrepreneurial, or was that something you became more acquainted with as time went on? Like starting a podcast and trying to evolve a digital product, whether it came to fruition or not. Like that's not just something someone sits around and is like, oh, I'm just going to do this today. Like, where does those tendencies come from?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Michael. And I think it kind of blossomed from discontent, right? So I started working my first job, I think when I was like 15. Excuse me. I didn't even have a car. I'd bike to work. And I realized very quickly that people weren't going to ever pay me for what I was actually worth. Mm-hmm. And the other part of that is that I really felt like in the jobs that I had, I wasn't treated fairly. I was treated poorly. And that kind of inspired me to say, hey, well, what if I actually started my own lemonade stand, right? Hypothetically, what if I struck out on my own and did my own thing? How much more could I make? Would it be a different experience? Would I be able to create my own hours? So I think it started very on out of discontent, and it evolved to, how can I create something that'll allow me to live this lifestyle where I can live the way I want, right? And not have to answer to anyone and not have to clock in or punch a clock or answer to someone. I could travel, I could see the world. I could do all these things that I really wanted to do, but I never had the opportunity. So that was kind of the evolution, I think, of the entrepreneurial spirit.
Then what was the first step into your own then that kind of manifested into?
Excuse me.
No dying on the show. We didn't sign the no death waiver. No dying on the show.
No death waivers. So are you asking me? I just want to make sure I have this. Are you asking me like what was the first business I started, or what was?
Yeah.
Okay.
The first business or gig or contract or whatever it was that was entrepreneurship the first time for you.
Yeah, I think even before I got into this digital space, it was when I was in high school. My coach had a preschool, and he needed lawn maintenance and lawn care. So a good friend of mine back paid us like $40-50 for us to spend an hour or two pulling out the weeds around your preschool, and he was like, yeah. And then another friend of mine, Reed Bowman, he had like a pressure washing machine.
Okay.
So we'd link up with him and we'd join his crew. So not necessarily that it was like our business per se in that regard, but it was kind of like we realized that, oh, we can have this side hustle and we can make money to buy some beer on the weekends and some CDs and some movie tickets,
Yeah. And well, it's probably the difference too between making a commission and then making a wage, right? Like a wage, you're locked in no matter what you do. To where a commission, you can up the rate if the job's bigger.
Right.
And I think that's really important for people to understand the difference, because even if you're working for somebody else, but you get to decide the price that you work and the amount of effort that's expended for that price, like it's a completely different interaction for both parties.
Oh yeah, and I think that we've gotten to a point where entrepreneurship just makes sense, right? You look at
Yes.
families, it's hard for families to have two the wife and the husband both working. Like, who's going to raise the kids, right? So it's almost like entrepreneurship is evolving out of a necessity for us to be able to raise our families and be there. Maybe you have a loved one that's sick, or maybe you have in these cases where it's so easy to travel, you have a spouse that's in another country and they can't get residency in the United States. Well, if that's the cards or the hand you've been dealt, you have to figure out a way to make money, maybe where you're not necessarily specific to a geographic location. So I think it's kind of almost evolved, Michael, out of a necessity for the things that we desire in our lives.
No, I agree with that completely too, because the one thing that I've been kind of seeing transition is employment doesn't work on its own. Like, it's really hard for companies in today's day and age to pay you enough to provide a lifestyle and provide for your means, let alone for you to be able to do the things that you want in life. So like having a side hustle, if you want to call it that, or some sort of intentional profit gains outside of employment is really necessary if you're going to live a happy lifestyle. It's just employment's not at a place where it's working well in this country anymore. And I don't remember too many origin stories I've heard of families either who are talking about, oh, my family immigrated here in the 20s and then they went and got a day job.
Right.
So they immigrated here and then they started a business.
Right.
And like the whole, we're all supposed to have day jobs. I don't know where that came from in our history, but it just kind of seems not what it should have been,
Right. It's a very outdated, industrial revolutionary times mindset, right? Even the idea of the 9 to 5, right? Like, even if you have a 9 to 5 and you go to work, how many of those hours from 9 to 5 are you actually spending doing really high-end productive work, right? Like your output is actually creating something that is valuable, right? Most people are, there's this thing now called ghosting. Have you heard of this thing? It's
Yeah,
like
I think so.
it's like people like pretend they're in their office, but they're not, right?
Yeah.
So it's, I would say maybe of those 8 hours that you spend at work, like maybe there's three to maybe five. That's a stretch. That's actually really productive time that you're really creating value, right? And the other time you're at the water cooler, at the lunch break. So I think even that's gonna have to change at some point too, right?
Well, so that's crazy that you even bring it up that way, because one of the guests earlier is a teacher or professor. I can't remember what age group and level he teaches at, in Korea, and he works 14 hours a week.
That's great.
Like 14-hour work week.
He probably has a great life too, right? A great life outside of
But like, if
work.
other countries can do it, why can't we do it?
Yeah.
And it's all about like family being important and employers not paying you to do nothing. Because I don't know how many people I talk to that text me like, "Hey, what's up?" I'm like, "Nothing. What you doing?" I'm just chilling at work.
I'm at work.
Like,
I'm at work. What do you mean you're at work? You're supposed to be like working,
right?
So
Yeah,
I get that.
So that's really funny. So once you start venturing out on your own and doing your own thing, what lessons did you learn right away that kind of either surprised you or maybe knocked you back on your butt a little bit, and you had to dust yourself off and like, oh crap, this isn't quite what I was taught how to deal with?
It's a great question. I think kind of like moving in the evolution, one of the things I did when I was in college is I started an entertainment company. And one of the things I think I realized early on was that it was on me, like it was on my shoulders, right? So no one was gonna, like, I had to go out and eat what I killed, right? No one was gonna help me get my books that semester. If I didn't have them, if there wasn't any excess money from any Pell Grants or any things like that I had. So I literally had to, it's great motivation when it's on your shoulders, And I think when I was younger, I had this drive that, I really appreciated it being on my shoulders. I like the kind of coming from like a football background, right? Like, it's fourth quarter, you're on the 1 yard line, you got to punch it in to win the game. If you don't cross that goal line, it's over, right? So I appreciated that weight, right? Like, I was able to carry that. And I think the lesson that what a lot of people don't tell you, that entrepreneurship is tough. It's hard. It's not easy.
The problem is it's fourth quarter every quarter.
Yeah.
And there is no locker room at the end of the game. There's
right.
The first quarter again.
Every day. And I would say, like, looking back, I wish I would have gotten, asked for help sooner, right? Like, I think people think it has to be this solo sojourn where you're on your own and it's, it's you slaying dragons. But I think if you can find, if not a business partner, some kind of like peer group that you can plug into to kind of help you along the way, because there's going to be the inevitable down spirals, right? That's essential to kind of keeping you sane. Yeah.
Now, did you have that starting off? Like,
no.
You support friends, family, everybody look at you like you're dumb and say, go back and get that day job?
Well, I always, I remember when I started my entertainment company, a friend of mine who wasn't a friend much longer after that said, why would you do that? Why would you go start why would you go, what makes you, now I quote you, he said this, he said, what makes you think that you can do something like that? And I said, well, I'm gonna show you that I can do something like that. So I went to Vistaprint, got my business cards,
The first step of every business.
The first step.
I'm legit. I have business cards.
You're not legit unless you have Vistaprint business cards, right? It's not official until you can put a card in someone's hand and say, "Call me."
What do? I haven't figured that out yet, but call me.
I don't know what I sell. I don't know my prices, but I got business cards, right? So, I got some pushback from my friends, and I quickly realized who was on the team at that point, right? They weren't a part of the team. If they weren't there to support me and to lift me up, then why do I don't? That's not a relationship that I need, right? So that person got cut off. I think my family has always been supportive. I was only the second person in my immediate family to get a degree. So I think there was some push for me to go the safe route, right? Like get a degree, you're going to have a good job. And I had to realize that was based on my mom's experience, right? Excuse me. Cause she never she's in school now, and she's actually went back to school when she was like 60, when she turned 57. She's now pursuing
her, man.
Yeah, it's great, amazing woman, right? But so she was almost pushing her dream on me, right? Like go to school, get a job. And if you're not self-aware of these things that are happening, you can think, oh man, like I have to do that. I have to go that route. But I was smart enough to realize that it was a decision that I was going to have to make on my own. And I did graduate. I did get a job out of college eventually. But I realized that really wasn't going to be the route that I wanted to take. So entrepreneurship. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I said, so entrepreneurship has always kind of been the thing, like even if there's been times where I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say, oh, like it's been this glorious journey, right? There's been times where I had to go back and get a side, like go work part-time at a place, right? Or figure out a way to hustle and make some money on the side, whether it be pawning stuff or putting stuff on Craigslist. I always found a way to eat, right? But at the end of the day, I think once you kind of experience that freedom and you kind of see that world from a different light, it's hard to really go back and say, this is, I'm going to be a full-time employee for somebody for the rest of my life. Even if you do it for a year to sock some cash away. I think that discontent, started to come up. It's like, hey, well, you can do this and you can play by somebody else's rules, or you can go out and create your own thing and live by your rules.
Right. So what are you excited for going into 2019? You got any big projects planned? Any big things new coming?
Yeah, man, I'm excited to dig deeper into the podcast. We're at 78 episodes.
Oh, wow.
So I'm excited to just really dig deeper in that. I think this year was kind of like a phase of kind of just figuring out, how is it going to work? Will it work? Do people care? Does it matter, right? Does it add value? And now I just want to go deeper on that. Just invested in some video equipment, going to be bringing on a video team to do some stuff outside of just some ancillary stuff around just audio, adding video. I'm just excited. I'm excited to really dig into that because podcasting has been something I've been doing for nearly 5 years now, and I'm just ready to just dig deeper into this show, man, and just make it have more impact. So,
no, that's really cool. So, this was a really fast 20 plus minutes already. Holy crap! Where can people find you online?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So Vernon Maxwell is my handles on Twitter and IG. It's MAXXWell. And if you want to just kind of see what I'm up to, you can go to my site. It's vernonmaxwell.com.
All right, perfect, man. Well, I'll make sure whenever I do the post edits on all this that all the links and everything are in there, so that way it's easy for people to get a hold of you. Like I said, I really appreciate you coming on here last minute and kind of telling us what you got going on and sharing a little bit about your story here. It's been really fun to have you a part of this year's experience.
Yeah, man, that's
And I'm
cool.
sure we're gonna stay in touch after this for sure.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be a part of the marathon this year. Hope you keep it up, man, and want to see it again next year. To anybody out there listening, make sure you guys continue to support this project. It means a lot to the Anchor community. It means a lot to Michael and the listeners. And hopefully, I'm back next year, man.
Absolutely. Well, all right, man. Well, I'll be talking to you soon.
All right, cheers.
All right, so that was. Whoops, I keep clicking the wrong thing there. So that was Mr. Vernon. So he's done. I'm not gonna zoom myself back in because I believe the next guest, Alan, is ready. Alan, how's it going? Are you available for video, my friend? Yes, I can. Are you able to hear me okay? Yes, I can. Are you able to hear me? Maybe it's buffering. Well, that's not what I wanted to do. Yeah, we can just do audio only. That should be, let me think about it for a second. So if we do audio only, can we switch to Anchor? Because I've been losing the audio on Skype. Yeah, so hold on. Can you hear me okay now? Alright, so one of the problems with just audio on Skype is I don't have any way to record it. So everybody, we're having some technical difficulties here. Skype's not being friendly. So sorry everybody, we're going to have to transition to Anchor for this one because we were having some issues with Skype connectivity. It was working pretty well today and now it's deciding it's not going to play nicely. So let me try to get him on here. Sorry everybody. It's been, of course, things were running smooth for quite some time and now wants to play problems. Send that. See if we can find him here. Suppose, listen. So far. So yeah, so this is why we're recording live, because sometimes it takes a minute to update. So let me find people again, because sometimes, yeah, so I did favorite them. There we go. Cool. He says he found me. I'm going to try to do this again. There he is. Switch headphones. All right. Really sorry for this, guys. This happens. So this way I can make sure I capture the audio. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, so because I'm broadcasting the Skype calls, if I do audio only, I can't capture the audio because it's actually embedded into the video the way that I have it like set up through all the systems and stuff. I really don't know the details about it. I just know I lose my audio. No, not a problem. So how have you been? Yes, you have. Yes, absolutely. So for those of you who are not familiar with who you are, why don't you give us an intro and obviously an intro and kind of what you've been up to and what you got going on. Yeah, and I'm super excited that this is fully up and running because I believe last year on AnchorThon, we were still in kind of like the pre-production phase, kind of putting together the system and the programming, how you want it to look, and then I don't remember if it was like mid Q2 of last year, you started releasing betas of the template out to some of us who've been a part of the journey in the beginning there and got some feedback from us and kind of let us see what it was going to look like. And honestly, it was slightly intimidating, but once you explain things, it made a lot more sense. And then where it's at now, and then seeing progress reports on how much time you're saving people, like you said, by not participating in things that are low value added to in their lives already, and just how much that's freed up things. So do you know what your total net score is for total time saved across all your clients this year? Mm. So I know we talked about it before, but I definitely want to. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Okay. So I know we talked about it before, but I want to revisit it because I don't remember the specifics of the answer. Um, so when it comes to living a fully intentional life, and you're mapping all the different responsibilities and things that we have value, and then assigning time principles to those to make sure that we're using time the way that we intend to versus kind of spending time foolishly, correct? Right. So, in that model, how do you fit in ambiguity and things like spontaneity? Mm-hmm. Yep. Right. Yeah, because like I really wanted to work with you and see how this program plays out, but I've always been nervous. Um, for one, the level of accountability and self scrutiny of where am I actually wasting time, because I know I do it quite a bit, and two, um, one of the things that I feel that I might be one of my biggest strengths is the ability to find these unique opportunities um, within moments that most people can't see them necessarily, and how it relates to my personal function, and then have the bandwidth to participate in those. And I was always nervous that, like, obviously, how the heck can I assume what your program's going to do to me if I don't actually understand the program or participate in it? But I guess one of the nervousnesses would be if I chose to participate in those things, it would be an automatic loss or default negative outcome, because then the time wasn't spent as intended, if that makes sense. Yeah. No, and that's why when you framed it as in having a defense system or mechanism to guard your time and decide, is this worth allocating the resource of time to, it really framed it in a way that made more sense. And I think, uh, yeah, and I think probably one of my own faults here was, normally when people build these types of structures, especially when it comes to like time organization and the excess and taking excess waste of a resource out, they're very rigid and unforgiving, and kind of one size fits all. This is the system, you abide by the system or you don't. And I guess probably one, out of my ignorance, and two, out of my laziness, and us not being able to communicate this year quite like I would have hoped, I made a lot of assumptions, and probably people who've only been watching from afar have probably been making a lot of assumptions on this being a one size fits all program. And it sounds like you've done much diligence to make sure it's actually the complete opposite, and that anybody can participate at whatever level that they're either comfortable or need to, which is highly unique, especially in your space of advanced engineering like you're doing. No, absolutely. So one of my questions, and it's kind of been a common question I've been asking a lot of people when we're talking about identifying someone's values and what they find valuable and all that. What happens if you have somebody who doesn't know because they haven't spent any time thinking about it, or life's just affected them in the way to where they're kind of giving up on self ambition and self, this is important to me. Like, what process do you take them through in identifying what's important to them? Because I know for myself, like the last 6 years, what I thought was important to me has completely changed the more and more I got to know myself. No, I think that's a really good comprehensive approach. Because I think that's just something I've experienced a lot, is people who've kind of not participated in understanding their own ambitions because it just they didn't know how to execute on those ambitions, so it's something they tucked away, sometimes from a super young age, even childhood, let alone as an adult that just gave up on them because of circumstances. And having tools and resources to revisit those, because you hear a lot, oh, it's 2018, it's almost going to be 2019, the tools are there, take a chance on your passion, or something. It's like, well, I don't even know what I'm passionate about. And then getting them there. Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Man, I wish 20 minutes didn't go by so fast. No, no, absolutely. It's super exciting to have you on as a round two guest, and especially because, like I said, we got to see when the idea was first coming together, at least publicly, and then what it's evolved into now through practical application. And I really look forward to see where you take this. I definitely hope we have time for a round two here in the next few months and kind of expand on some of your concepts and more of the origins on how you develop this and how you think about it. Because the way you frame things and the way you ask questions is a lot of times how I aspire to, but sometimes fall short. So I definitely feel not only kindred spirited, but I have quite a bit to learn from you, especially because we speak a similar language. Um, Absolutely. So, where can everybody find you on the internet? If you want to be found, of course. No, it's definitely value added, and if they don't see it, then they need to probably do a slight ego check and listen to what you're saying instead of doing what I was doing and interpreting what you were saying for our past experiences of what might happen. Um, and you know what, honestly, I don't even think it's that. I think it's me being someone who I feel is highly driven and not wanting to be exposed for what I know I could be doing better versus the story that I tell myself, and not being ready for that level of accountability, or at least telling me a story that level of accountability could somehow hinder what I'm doing. Because I've actually had a similar conversation with a couple other of my friends and people that I do look up to or ask questions of. And a lot of my avoidance of them or their programming or their thought processes have been 100% about me trying to hide myself so that way I didn't have that level of accountability in my daily life. And that's probably why I'm 31 still dealing with the same problems that I was dealing with when I was 23. So I think this is a good opportunity to state that something has to change, and I really hope to communicate and connect with people more like you here in 2019 and make sure that I don't relive those same mistakes and, as you would put it, regret the future the same way that I regretted the past. Yep. No, absolutely. Well, I really appreciate your time. We're definitely gonna stay in touch this year more than we did so last year. Um, Thank you again. No, thank you. Absolutely. You too. Happy New Year, man. All right. So you guys didn't get to hear that one. Alan, like, I don't know how to describe the residency that he has when speaking with me. Part of it's his tone. Like, he has the coolest voice I think out of anybody that I one moment. Okay, so yeah, there's like I said, one of his tones, so Vinny Dangerfield by far has the greatest name I've ever encountered. Alan has the greatest voice I've ever encountered. Just something about it. But not only that, but the way he communicates, the way that he thinks, the questions that he asks, and the ability for him to zoom in and out and scope so quickly is not only something that I try to pride myself on and develop more, but he does it from a data standpoint. And one thing that I've get this out of my other ear. One thing that I've been hiding from my almost my entire life is the data side of that conversation with myself. And I didn't think it was possible to be able to zoom in and out intuitively and intellectually and from a creative standpoint and apply data at the exact same time. And he just continually proves me wrong in the best way possible. And like I said, you guys couldn't hear what was happening on the other line. I can't wait to publish not just this one, but all of them. But any moments I have with Alan, I find very, very precious. And I'm super grateful for any opportunities to have these conversations with him and everyone else. Like I said, I'm not putting him up on some crazy pedestal, but I am saying that some people communicate and resonate better with other people, and he is one of those people that we just speak the same language. We seem to vibe well together, and I'm just excited to be able to find people that are similar to me, you know, because of course I interviewed roughly 20 something, almost 30 people today, and obviously, and if they're going to be on the show, there's something that I have in common with all of them. But say each person has 5 potential personality traits. You know, gelling with somebody on 1 or 2 is great, but when you can gel on more, that's somebody that you find more closely. Like some people are going to gravitate more towards a Tony Robbins. Some people are going to be closer to a Jim Rohn. And then other people are really going to love what Grant Cardone and Donald Trump have to say. But that doesn't mean that because you like Donald Trump that Jim Rohn's any less valuable. It just means that the communication style and the way that they present themselves is not as attractive or impactful to you. So that's my long rant on why I'm so excited to interact with Alan. It looks like we have a couple gaps here in the schedule. So I'm actually going to go off live momentarily, and then I will be back when everything else is good to go and set up. So thank you for tuning in. I believe the next one's going to be at 3:20 Eastern Standard Time, but I will let you know because this next call coming from Singapore, so we might have to move some things around in the schedule or see if we can get them on earlier or later. But I'll keep everyone